This time I invite Mary Moy to come forward as we recognize Gus Ouzts and Lucy Nell Smith.
Good morning. This is always such a pleasure. The year was 1924. There were many changes in America in this decade that was called the Roaring Twenties. The world had become modern. Telephones, automobiles, radios, jazz music, and movies, and the promise of ever greater prosperity. Calvin Coolidge was president in 1924, and he has the distinction of being the first president to deliver a radio broadcast from the White House. 2 future presidents were born this same year, Jimmy Carter, our 39th president, and George Herbert Walker Bush, our 41st president. Into this era of booming economy and national enthusiasm, 2 baby girls were born. They were born in rural Oglethorpe County in the little town of Lexington in northeast Georgia. Lucy Nell was born to Margaret and George Cunningham on March 25th of 1924, and her cousin, Ruby Augusta, was born to Henrietta and Herschel Roberts on April the 8th of 1924. Now, it was Lucy Nell's father, George Cunningham, and Gus's mother, Henrietta Roberts, who were brother and sister. And that makes Gus and Lucy Nell not just cousins, but first cousins. Now, in the South, that's an important distinction. In 1929 and in 1930, when these little girls were beginning their school years, the prosperity of the 20s had ended. The stock market had crashed, and America was in the midst of the Great Depression. Times were very hard. But these little girl cousins were unaware of hard times as they grew up happily with their siblings. Lucy Nell had 2 brothers, George Jr. and Harry, while Gus had 1 sister, Soretta. All these cousins played together and attended the same school, Meeson Academy in Lexington, which they tell me gave you the very best education to be had in Georgia. Ruby Augusta soon became known as Gus, and she started to the 1st grade when she was 5, which was allowed in those days. Lucy Nell started to school the following year at age 6. So although they were not in the same classroom, they were in the same school. At Meeson Academy, both were very popular young ladies, and they were outstanding students. Gus was named valedictorian of her class, and they played on the same basketball team in high school, and Lucy Nell was named All-State basketball player. By the time our birthday girls had reached college age, the economy had improved, but America was now on the brink of World War II. In 1940, when Gus finished high school, she enrolled at the University of Georgia, where she graduated in 1944 with a degree in sociology with a concentration in math. She worked in Athens for the Navy following graduation, and she taught for half a year at her home school, Meeson Academy, back in Lexington. During the war years of 1941 to 44, Lucy Nell attended Georgia State College for Women. Now, that's correct. I did say 1941 to 44. She completed college in 3 years. Why are we not surprised? At GSCW, she distinguished herself as a student, and she earned a BS degree in education with a major in history. She later returned to GSCW, now Georgia College, to earn her graduate degrees. From 1944 to 45, the year following her graduation, Lucy Nell taught school in Dalton, Georgia. You see how Lucy Nell and Gus's lives began to, they intertwine, and then they go their separate ways, and they weave back together. So watch for that as we look at this. Gus and Lucy Nell both came to Tennell in the same year, 1945, just as World War II was coming to a close. Now, Lucy Nell came first. She came to teach history at Tennell High School. And then she recommended her cousin Gus to fill a vacancy for a math teacher at Sandersville High School, where Gus taught and served as girls' basketball coach. Here in Tennell, Lucy Nell met and married John Holder Smith in 1946, and Gus was maid of honor in Lucy Nell and Johnny's wedding. Lucy Nell introduced Gus to Johnny's first cousin, Buddy Ouzts, and the next year, 1947, Gus married Buddy, and Lucy Nell then served as her cousin's matron of honor. See how interestingly their lives are intertwined. First cousins married first cousins. After marriage, Gus and Buddy moved to the Ouzts farm just outside Tennell, where they began raising their family. And in the 1950s, they moved to Main Street, Tennell. Gus and Buddy raised 4 fine sons: Ben, Herschel, Henry, and Allen. When her boys were older, Gus returned for a while to work for Washington County Board of Education, where she worked to establish the vocational library at Washington County High School. Buddy was elected superintendent of schools for Washington County and added this demanding job to his farming activities. And Gus, with her friendly and mild-mannered ways, was a definite asset to Buddy's administrative career. Meanwhile, in 1946, Lucy Nell and John Holder had moved to Atlanta, where Johnny was at Georgia Tech, completing his college studies, which had been interrupted by wartime service in World War II. In 1949, they returned to Tennell, where John Holder went to work with his father as president of the local cotton mill, Tennell's major industry, Washington Manufacturing Company. In the early 1950s, Lucy Nell was a stay-at-home mom with her 2 sweet children, William and Margaret. And I know they were sweet because I babysat with them. But in 1955, with William and Margaret in school, Lucy Nell returned to the classroom at Tennell High School and was a beloved history teacher to the Tennell teenagers of my generation. She was and still is a fantastic teacher. She inspired us to work hard, and most of all, she taught us to love learning. She is herself a lifetime learner. She still gets excited about discovering new things about our world, and she's still a very avid reader. If you'll forgive a personal note here, Miss Lucy Nell believed in me as a student, and she fostered my interest in learning and especially in writing. And I can tell you that I am a teacher today because Lucy Nell Smith was my teacher. Following the consolidation of the high schools, Lucy Nell went on to teach at Washington County High School in 1962, and she remained there until 1968. Now, many of you are much younger than me, and you younger folks will remember her years at Waco. In February of 1964, we were all devastated by the untimely death of Johnny and Lucy Nell's son, William. Through this tragedy and its aftermath, Lucy Nell taught us once again, as she taught us all, how to handle unbearable grief with dignity and with strength. Her faith is the key to her strength. She was and still is today a woman of strong faith. She returned to the classroom, and then she and John Holder received a blessing from God, the birth of another son, Jay. After retirement from public school, Lucy Nell began her second career. She became head mistress of Brentwood School and continued in that position for 18 years. Once again, she touched my life, as I was then a teacher at Brentwood myself, and she was my principal. As a teacher, Lucy Nell was selected 3 times Star Teacher of the Year, and she's been named Washington County's Citizen of the Year. I don't know of any educator in this area who is more respected than Lucy Nell Smith. In October of 2003, Lucy Nell lost her husband, John Holder, and this was a great loss not only to his family, but to this community and especially to this church. We all mourn Johnny's passing, and once again, Lucy Nell suffered grief and loss with dignity, and she remained strong and faithful to her family and to this church. Likewise, Gus has always been an inspiration to us, and she was especially an inspiration as she so faithfully tended her husband, Buddy, during the many years that he was in the nursing home. All of us know of the hours she spent making Buddy's last years better. She never complained. She was just always so thankful for the time they had together. Buddy died in June of 2012, and we all gathered with Gus and the family, and you know that hot summer day, to remember with gratitude Buddy's years of service to Washington County and to this church. How fortunate we are that these two first cousins, Lucy Nell Cunningham Smith and Augusta Roberts Ouzts, chose to continue weaving their lives together by coming to live and serve in Tennell. At 90 years old, they are still vital members of this church and this community. Gus and Lucy Nell both have served in leadership positions in numerous civic clubs. They've been members of the Tennell Garden Club, Tennell Woman's Club, the Zeta Cemetery Trust, and both have served as president of the Fine Arts Club of Tennell. Their knowledge and their positive manner are still in demand. Interestingly, Lucy Nell and her cousin Gus did not begin their religious journey together. Lucy Nell grew up Methodist. She belonged to the Methodist Church in Lexington, and when she and John Holder settled in Tennell, Lucy Nell moved her membership to Tennell Methodist in 1949. Gus's family was Baptist, so Gus grew up Baptist in the Lexington Baptist Church. And in her early days in Tennell, Gus attended the Tennell Baptist Church. Gus tells the story of when Miss Mary Northington, Margaret's mother-in-law, advised Gus that she really ought to be in the same church with her husband. So in 1950, Gus joined Tennell Methodist Church. Now, if my math is correct, all this adds up to the impressive fact that Gus Ouzts has been a member of this church for 64 years, and Lucy Nell Smith has been a member of this church for 65 years. During all this time, they have both served our church in leadership positions. Lucy Nell served on the Board of Trustees, chairman of the Council on Ministries, chairman of the Finance Committee, chairman of the C.V. Ouzts Foundation, and chairman of the United Methodist Trust Fund. She is currently serving as chairman of the PPR Committee. Gus has served so faithfully as an officer in the C.V. Ouzts Foundation. She's been a Sunday school teacher, a vacation Bible school teacher. She's treasurer of the UMW Circle. And for several years, she served not only as the chairman, she is the Flower Committee. It is through the efforts of Gus Ouzts that each Sunday morning we are blessed by the flowers on our altar, and the proper acknowledgement is in the bulletin. Thank you, Gus. Both Lucy Nell and Gus have always been faithful members of the Missionary Circle of the United Methodist Women, and they are staunch supporters of all the community outreach programs in our church. Even now, as they turn 90 years old, we can still count on them as a dynamic part of a program that we have called Bread of Life. You should see Miss Lucy Nell at the stove cooking vegetables and fixing plates, and then watch Gus come through the door with her baskets full of sweet desserts for delivery to needy people in our community. They inspire us with their staunch work ethic. If any of us younger ladies even think about getting tired at Bread of Life, we only have to look to these two dynamos, and we stand to look taller, and we try to work harder. These gracious ladies love this church. Almost every Sunday morning, you can find both of them at the morning worship service, and we always look for them in their pews. We would all do well to take a lesson in faithfulness by looking to the worship attendance of these two wonderful church ladies. Lucy Nell Smith is a hero to many people, to many of you here today. Like me, many of you have had the great good fortune to be taught by Lucy Nell. The people who were taught by her and those who taught with her hold her in great esteem. She is the epitome of a genuine teacher, and we all still look to her for the correct way to behave, to speak, and to continue learning. Gus Ouzts is a dear soul who befriends so many people. Her positive outlook and her kind heart have endeared her to so many. Let me tell you a story. One of the teachers in our county told me that one morning on a cold, rainy winter morning, she had car trouble on Main Street just in front of Gus's home. Gus came out into the rain to help her and her young children get to school. Now, I think I'm quoting this correctly. Gus said something like, "Just get in the car, sugar. I'll take you and your children where you need to go." Now, mind you, Gus did not know this young lady nor her children, but this genuine Christian kindness of Gus Ouzts is evidenced here. So here we are today, ladies, in the year 2014, in a world quite different from the year of your birth. in a world where the internet and cell phones and satellites are commonplace, but sadly where civility, that's Lucy Nell's word, and gracious behavior seem to be in short supply. But thankfully, this is still a world where God is still in charge and where we can trust in the goodness of our God and to appreciate the unique opportunities He gives to us to honor people like the two of these ladies. And we do indeed honor both of you on your 90th birthdays. Your lives have been woven together in so many special ways. So we wanted to weave this tribute together to honor you both today. We celebrate the 90 years which have brought both of you professional success as well as personal satisfaction. And we celebrate the years which the two of you have shared your many talents with all of us. Both of you will always have a very special place in the hearts of the people of Tennell, and especially in the hearts of the members of this church. We are so delighted that so many of your family and friends are joining us to celebrate this momentous occasion. With our love and appreciation, Gus, Lucy Nell, we wish you both a very happy birthday, and we thank you for giving us the opportunity to share it with you. Now, if everybody will stand, we're going to sing Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear ladies. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. You may be seated.
Mary, thank you for the beautiful tribute, and it is truly a blessing to celebrate this wonderful day with these two fine ladies. We are blessed to know you both. Let us stand and sing Love Divine, All Love's Excelling, number 384. We're going to sing verses 1 and 4.